So you just had stem cell therapy and now you're wondering, how do I increase my likelihood of having good outcomes? How do I supercharge my recovery? Well, I'm going to be covering that inside this video. My name is Dr. Garcia. I'm a leading expert in stem cell recovery, and I'm excited to help you through this process so you can maximize your outcomes, supercharge your healing, and just feel like your old self again. Now, when we look at what a full year, or full 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months of a stem cell recovery process looks like, I always get the question, how do I expedite this? And the great thing about this is that the way to expedite this is to hurt less, or to have less flare-ups, or to have less tissue irritation, and let the stem cells really do their job at the highest rate possible. So the question is, how do you supercharge it, but also how do you not allow yourself to drop down, and we call flare-ups, into called inflammation or aggravation of your symptoms. So I'm going to give you 5 secrets today on how to supercharge your recovery. And the first one comes down to knowing what is the normal timeline. You have to create expectations. So what's normal? What is what everyone else goes through? Yes, you are very different, and your body is different, and your conditions are different. But from a stem cell recovery process, it is very, very predictable. There are general formats and protocols to go through. And if you understand that, you can then find yourself in those timelines versus guessing, well, I'm unique, this is going to be different for me. When we talk about a back surgery or a knee surgery, every person is different, but the things that the recovery process of your cells are all very similar. They follow a normal path, and that's what's happening here. So when we go through this, the first thing to supercharge recovery is know the guidelines, or know the timelines, so that you can set your own expectations and not try and push too hard or too slow, and know what is normal. And just to give you a glimpse of that, the first 6 months of recovery, if you go for a second round of injections, it'll typically happen around that 6-month mark. So the first 6 months are full recovery. It'll take you about 6 months to get to that 70, 80, 90% of feeling good again. And if you go for a second round, that'll take you an additional 5 months to really get to that same place. So you're looking at anywhere from 11 to 12 months, depending on your stem cell recovery. And this may change with how aggressive you go with your rehab and everything else, but just knowing it's about a 6-month process for 1 round of stem cell injections, or 11 to 12 months for a second round. So now, when you look at that and you say, wow, that's a long time. Now, there are periods of progressions that'll change within that. And so you will be a little bit more active at the 6-week mark, and you'll be able to push more at the 12-week mark. You'll be getting back to the gym at the 16 and 20-week mark. You'll be out playing golf and those type of things at the 20-week mark. And at the 24 is when you're really feeling good. So if you know those timelines, now you can find yourself in that. The second one to supercharge your recovery is know when flare-ups are most common. They're most common every 4 to 6 weeks from the time of your injection. Now, it's not just that your cells are every 6 weeks that they start to say, let's flare up a little bit. What really happens is every 4 to 6 weeks, you're challenging yourself more with more stress, more physical activity, more things. That's a normal protocol. Every 4 to 6 weeks, you enter a new phase. You go from range of motion to mobility to strength training to getting back in the gym and fitness activities. These are very predictable timelines. Well, every time you do that, your cells are now starting to transition into a gradual progression and saying, we're getting used to that amount of stress being applied, so now we're going to get stronger, and they fight back by giving you a little bit of soreness, a little bit of inflammation. So flares typically happen every 4 to 6 weeks. Now, if you know that, if you knew this is going to take a year, you knew it's going to take 6 months, and now you know every 4 to 6 weeks you have the risk of having a flare-up, now that allows you to say, gosh, now I can find myself into the sequence. How am I doing? You can self-rate yourself. And the third one to supercharge your recovery is knowing how to get out of those stem cell flare-ups quickly. How to knowing where they are along the timeline is important, but also how do you overcome them as soon as possible. So we said they happen every 4 to 6 weeks. As a general guidance, a flare-up will last anywhere from 0 to 72 hours. This is where your body's fighting back against those stem cells and saying, all right, let's let them do their job. During this time, we're gonna back you down and have some active rest where you're doing walking, maybe a stationary bike, you're not doing anything stressful, but you're allowing yourself to actually move and do more things. Now, what you're not doing is going back to the gym, you're not doing high fitness activities, and this allows you to stay a little active. Now, if that flare-up lasts more than 72 hours, we're gonna give you complete rest where you get to rest, watch Netflix, sit on the couch and do those type of things. That's a general guideline. Now, if you know how to get out of those flare-ups quickly, then that means that you don't have to be on the decline and worsen your condition for an extended period of time. So if you know the year mark and the 6-month mark, and you know that you're going to get possibility of having flare-ups every 4 to 6 weeks, and you now know how to get out of those flare-ups, the next question is, okay, so what's next? So the point number 4 on how to supercharge your recovery is work closely with your provider. This is where you need to stay in touch on a regular basis. We recommend seeing your local provider 1 to 2 times a week. If you're doing a virtual program, you can also do 1 time a week. If you really love the accountability and having some support there, you can do twice a week. 1 time is perfect. Twice a month is bare minimum. I wouldn't recommend at any given time, just because there's a lot of questions that pop up during this time. Is this normal? What should I do? My back is feeling stiff. It's only around the injection site, or my feet feel better, but my back is achy, but my neck is this. And so there's a lot of those questions. And so having these sessions to help guide you and tell you what's next is probably the most important thing. So you have to work closely with your local provider to ensure that the timeline is set, you fit along appropriately in there. Every 4 to 6 weeks, you know what's coming. If you do have a flare-up, you know how to get out. Your provider's right there with you alongside, just guiding you along that path. And the 5th one on how to supercharge your recovery is to stay positive. Now, you might say, well, Chris, I've been able to get this far and I've been able to work through it and those type of things. I'll tell you what, stem cell recovery is a different animal. It's a different beast in that it will really, we've had somebody say, Chris, it makes me go crazy. Am I crazy or not? And I think that's a real thought process that I feel a little bit in my back, and you're always constantly questioning what's happening in your body. Is this normal? Maybe it's not normal. Wait, maybe I'm exaggerating? And we get these questions often. One, you're not crazy. You are going through a normal process. And one of the biggest things we see in success is people who stay positive, who stay focused on the timeline, stay focused on the goal, not where you're at right now, but focus on the next step. So that's why it's important that you have a guideline to help tell you, okay, great, at the 3-month mark, this is where you should be. And if you're having flare-ups 2 weeks before that, it's okay, we have 2 more weeks. You know how to manage that flare-up. You know how to manage with your local provider. And staying positive and staying focused on the target is more important than every single feeling that you have, knowing that in this is what normal is, this is where you're gonna be. It gives you context on what to expect. So those are 5 easy ways that you can supercharge your recovery. And if you ask me which one's the most important, I think number 1, knowing the timeline, and number 2, staying absolutely positive through this. Work with that provider, but you did this for a reason and you're on the right path. Just stay with your provider, stay on that right track and stay positive. If you have any questions about your recovery process on what to do next, maybe you feel lost, maybe you wanna consult with somebody, am I on the right track? Is my provider doing the right thing? Is this the timeline? All of those things, we'd be happy to help. So feel free to email us, call us on our website below. And we'll be able to help you with a recovery assessment to see where you're at. But ultimately, I hope this helps with your recovery process and you can find yourself somewhere in this to be able to help you heal properly and safely. Enjoy. Hi, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification for my weekly tips on recovering safely to create long-lasting results after stem cell therapy. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.